So first off, I'd like to say good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for being here. And most of you know me because I've done so many talks here in the last couple of years. My name is Lynn Stefano. I work at Windrose in Weymouth. It is an all-memory care facility. It is private pay, and we treat people with dementia, Alzheimer's, and any cognitive issues. So today we're going to talk about the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia, even though Alzheimer's is a dementia. So basically what I do is I go around and I educate the public on some of the signs to look for. I've been in the industry 22 years total in assisted living. 7 of the 22 years has been strictly memory care. So as I said, I come here often and I try to educate everybody. So what is dementia? Dementia is the name for a group of symptoms that make it hard to remember, think clearly, make decisions, or even control your emotions. It is important to note that dementia is not a disease per se, and the occurrence of dementia symptoms are caused by various conditions. As all of you know, or maybe you don't, there's several types of dementia. There's vascular, there's alcohol dementia, there's frontal lobe, there's Lewy body, there's Parkinson's dementia, and then there's Alzheimer's is a dementia. And I had the hardest time figuring that out myself because I thought Alzheimer's was one of its own, but it falls under the dementia umbrella. So Alzheimer's is a disease, and it's neurological, a brain disorder which causes problems with your memory. It's named after a German physician, Alois Alzheimer, who first described it in 1906. And some of you are from the era, because I certainly am, that I remember my grandparents, they were from the South End, and they had the Mattapan. They called it a bad place back then, the Mattapan Nut House, and it was when people were senile. But I guarantee 90% of those folks had some form of a dementia. We just didn't know about it back then. But I can remember as a kid, people would say, oh, River Street, you know, and growing up, I grew up in the 60s. So it's important to note that a person can have Alzheimer's without experiencing symptoms of dementia. And this is where it gets tricky and very confusing. Dementia frontal lobe is the worst one to have besides Lewy body. Lewy body causes behaviors, hallucinations, paranoia, whereas Alzheimer's, you just simply can't remember things. You forget. You know, you forgot that you ate this afternoon. You forgot that you were supposed to call your daughter last night. Or you had a doctor's appointment and you realized 3 days later, oh, darn. That's a form of Alzheimer's, and that's why they don't diagnose Alzheimer's until after death, because it's studying the brain and where it is, what side of the brain, the front, the back, the side, all these different things. And there are many, many, many factors that go into things that can cause, and they're finding it out more and more every day. As I speak, 1 in every 6 person is being diagnosed with some form of dementia, whether it's any of the ones I spoke of or Alzheimer's. So the main difference between Alzheimer's and dementia is that Alzheimer's is a disease in the brain, where dementia is a collection of symptoms. Alzheimer's disease causes cognitive decline, eventually leading to dementia, but not always. If you're over the age of 80 when you're diagnosed, it's a slower progression. If you're 70 or under, it's a fast progression. I know it firsthand. I recently moved a gentleman in where I work. I'm a certified dementia practitioner, as well as I'm the director of community relations there. So I work with all the families that have a loved one that's struggling. 59 years old, the wife kept him home as long as she could. Obviously, she wanted to take care of him. And when she brought him to us, he was towards the end stage. There's early stage, middle stage, and late stage of the disease. So he was at late stage when he came. And he passed before his 60th birthday. That's how quick it is with someone younger. I don't know what that correlation is. a why, the whys about it, but it's an interesting disease, yet it's an evil disease. It's worse on the caregiver. You're the person taking care of the person who's forgetting, and they get to a stage where they don't remember you or what's happening to them, but you're going to sit and watch that. And that's where I come in. I do a support group at my place. I work with husbands, wives, friends, neighbors, anybody who's dealing with it. And the big one that I do is taking care of the caretaker, because you're no good to them if you're not good to yourself. And it's okay to get upset. It's okay to get angry. It's okay to lose control once in a while. I had a woman recently, a gentleman, excuse me, came to my support group. And at the end, when everybody left, he said, geez, and he almost started crying. He said, I yelled at my wife yesterday. And I said, forgive yourself. It's okay, you're human. So again, it's not an easy task for anybody who's managing it themselves and or the family that has to watch it. Told my children, God forbid if it happens to me, put me in my favorite pajamas and put me to bed and say, night, night, Mom. Because I don't want my children to see that. You know, they know me as a independent, strong woman, worked her whole life like most people do, and it takes no prisoners. I have engineers at where I work. I have teachers. I have nurses. And I feel the smarter the person has been in their life and in their career is where it's attacking, and it's almost like you used your brain so hard with really, not that other workers don't get me wrong. However, lawyers, doctors, I've had happen, it's happened too, so it does. No one, you know, and that's the scary part. I have families come in and they'll say, my mom's 92, I've taken care of her for 5 years, she has $300,000, how long is she gonna live, Lynn? I have no idea. You know, I'm not God. I can't say, well, you know, she's 92 and she has Parkinson's dementia, so that means there's no set history for us to look at, because everyone's journey with it is different. I have a dear friend right now, and I have friends in the room who has it, and she's had it, and she's getting through it. She's still on her own, and I've talked about her before to all of you. She fell last year, and I think that expedited it more so that we're noticing more things. But she can do her daily things, but 5 minutes ago she won't remember. I visit her, and she says, do you want a water? No, thank you. 5 minutes. Would you like a water, Lynn? No, thank you. How about a water, Lynn? So those are the things. And her house is immaculate. She has a dog that she walks 3 or 4 times a day. She's a Quincy resident. I love her to death. She's like a second mother to me. And it's really hard to watch it. And I've seen it. I seen it 4 years ago when it started happening with her, where others didn't see it. But because of what I do every day, you can tell. So again, we'll continue on. Alzheimer's disease causes cognitive decline, leading to dementia. It's the most common reason why people get dementia. In the medical world, the term Alzheimer's and dementia are often thrown around interchangeably. However, they refer to 2 different things, and that's what I'm here today to help you understand the difference between the 2, because there is a huge difference. While many of the symptoms include memory loss, confusion can occur in dementia diseases as well as Alzheimer's. There are some differences. Knowing what they can help doctors properly diagnose the problem and administer any available treatments. Here are 12 ways to differentiate between dementia and Alzheimer's. Dementia is not a disease. I argue this because a lot of the folks that I get and come from a rehab, like they either, God forbid, fell, they broke a hip, they wandered out of their home, and then the doctors got a hold of them, and then the doctors said, she can't go home alone. You either have to have 24/7 and or you have to place her. So the folks that come to me, they're at that stage where they just cannot be alone, it's not safe. And I try to explain to people that it can happen as quick as shutting a light switch. Like my personal friend, she's fine right now, but tomorrow she may not be. We don't know. Science doesn't know this. Nobody knows it. And again, it's all different factors. Does she have high blood pressure? Is she on cholesterol meds? Is she a diabetic? These are all factors that expedite the disease as well. That's why they say a MIND diet is good, and a MIND diet is filled with leafy vegetables, fruits, fish, oils, that if you don't have any cognitive issues now, it's never too late to start incorporating those into your diet. We go by that philosophy at Windrose. We serve a MIND diet 3 times a day. Our residents are getting nuts, fruit, vegetables, leafy greens, things like that. So, according to Healthline, dementia is a syndrome, unlike the counterpart Alzheimer's, which is a disease. See, and that's where I was going with that. When they say dementia is a disease, and I get the folks from the rehab and or a geriatric psych, and that's where some of these hospitals send someone that has dementia. They do not need to be in a geriatric psych. Geriatric psych is for people who have mental illnesses, people who need to be on a strong medication, an antipsychotic med, maybe Haldol, maybe Depakote. Those are heavy-duty medications. Someone with dementia should not be on that regimen because it only suppresses the disease and it makes them almost catastrophic, where they can't talk, they can't. So I have a hard time with it. I'm very passionate about it. I've moved many people in from geriatric psychs, and I'm like, they shouldn't be here. It's a disease. It's not a mental illness. Do you see what I mean, the difference? Mental illness, people had it their whole life. They were depressed. They were bipolar, schizophrenic, Those are the people that need geriatric psych when you're older. So I could go on and on about that, but that's not why we're here today. I'll stay on the subject. So again, dementia is not a disease, doesn't lead to a specific diagnosis. Dementia is an overall term used to describe the symptoms that impact your memory, performance of daily activities, communication, abilities, and notes the source. The site acknowledges that symptoms can overlap, but it's important to treat them as separate entities to best address them medically and otherwise. Both young and elderly people can develop either dementia or Alzheimer's, although the latter is much common in seniors. More on that later. So again, what that's saying to you is as we age, like everything, I'm in my 60s. And what I tell people, well, because of what I do, my friends in general will call and say, oh my God, am I getting it, Lynn? I misplaced my keys. No, that doesn't mean it. I do it 50 times a day. I try to pick up my prescription at CVS that I drive by every day to and from work, and I leave it there for 4 days and say, oh, darn. That's not a sign of it. What is a sign is if you put your keys in the refrigerator or you put something from the freezer in the cabinet, and then you find it. If you put something where it doesn't belong, it's different. If I put my keys, every day I hang them when I walk in my house, I have a hook, right? So automatically I'm going to look the next day for my keys, heading out. Well, maybe I walked in and I stuck them on the counter because I had grocery bags. And I look at the hook and go, where's my keys? So that's not dementia, but if I couldn't find the keys and a day later I open the freezer to get an ice cube and my keys are sitting in there, that's something to worry about. That's something to look at. And that's how again, I'm not medical, I'm not a doctor. Again, I only know what I know and what I've learned from nurses and doctors that I've had the liberty to work with over the years. But those are some of the telltale signs. And then forgetting where you are. Driving down the road that you've driven down for 35 years and you're at a stop sign, you go, do I go left or right to go home? That's a sign. That's a sign. And then you might recollect it in a couple of minutes, and you might not. So those are the signs, like that early, that something's coming, and you should not be afraid because there's so many studies out there, and now they have medication that if they catch it at an early stage, cannot cure it, but it can certainly slow the progression of it. And they just came out with another new med. Aricept, that was the first one out. They realized it did nothing. If someone was over 80 and had it, it didn't help. It didn't help the cause at all. Now they have another new med, and they're constantly, I mean, all these big hospitals. I'm on Zoom meetings with doctors from Italy that are studying the disease. So it's there, it's rampant, and it's scary, and it's nothing to play around with. The regular dementias like vascular, a doctor can give you a diagnosis of that by a physical. Like, in vascular doesn't necessarily mean vascular issues. It's tricky. It could have, you could have something to do with your heart going on, vascular. You could have clogged arteries, up in your neck or in your legs, vascular. Alcohol, if you drank as a young person, if you still drink, that's where alcohol dementia comes in. Even if you drank for 40 years and you quit, that you can be diagnosed with alcohol dementia as well. They're finding that people that are drug addicts, younger in life, that are hooked on different types of medications, that there's a correlation with when they're older, dementia sets in, and I don't know what it does to the brain stems and so forth, but it's there. You can have more than one type of dementia, and what we call that in my world is dual diagnosis. So Parkinson's dementia, right? Because Parkinson's, it's not a dementia, but however, it is a physical condition. However, you can have Parkinson's and also have cognitive issues, but not have a dementia diagnosis, if that makes any sense. So then if you have Parkinson's with cognitive issues and then you have vascular dementia, that's a dual diagnosis. It's a lot to follow and understand, and I talk about it like it's second nature because I've been seeing it and hearing it, and I read everybody's medicals when they come in. It's how I've learned a lot too, from the hospitals, from doctors at the hospital and so forth. But like I said, some of that, I don't want to go down that path because it's totally another whole set. This is the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia that I'll try to stay focused on. Dementia is not a disease, it's a syndrome, unlike its counterpart, Alzheimer's, which is a disease. So there you go. Alzheimer's is a disease of the brain. Dementia is considered not a disease. Does that make sense? And it's not from the brain. It's, like I said, vascular. It's related this way. You know what I mean? Where Alzheimer's is spots, plaque on the brain, different areas. You can have more than one type of dementia. While Alzheimer's falls under the dementia umbrella, the Alzheimer's Association in Chicago notes there's something called mixed dementia. Mixed dementia, which is when abnormalities linked to more than one cause of dementia, and it occurs simultaneously in the brain. So there can be, Lewy body, which is in the front of the brain, but there can also be frontal lobe dementia. The source notes that studies have shown this may occur more previously than thought. The mixed version involves Alzheimer's along what's known as vascular dementia, which was once known as a post-stroke. Dementia is characterized by impaired judgment and difficulty organizing as opposed to memory loss. So do you understand that? So the vascular, it's more using better judgment, like, the street light's green. No, let me just cross. That was poor judgment. Whereas it's not real cognitive that's happening to you. So the vascular is similar to post-stroke. If you know anybody who's ever had a stroke, depending on what side of the brain it is, it can affect them differently. They cannot make good decisions. Sometimes it could be they have a deficit, an arm like this, or their leg drags, or, anything like that. So that's the difference. The big thing is Alzheimer's is not reversible. Alzheimer's.net explains that once someone is diagnosed with Alzheimer's, the outlook is grim. That's so harsh and awful to say, but it's a fact. It's true. It's degenerative and incurable at this time, notes the source. Sources note that the average life expectancy of a patient following a diagnosis of Alzheimer's is 8 to 10 years. I argue this too. The average stay in memory care, and it could be because people are waiting and keeping their loved one home, like I said earlier, longer. They want to take care of them till they just can't do it anymore. Our average stay for a residence is 2.5 years once someone comes into a facility. But the family might have been dealing with it for 5 years, 6 years, 3, we don't know. And some of the family doesn't tell the truth, especially the wife or the husband. And God bless you all, because you want to protect your wife or your husband, but you're not doing them any good by not being honest and saying he's really had signs for 5 years. Like, wives will come in, oh, it's just been, and I'll have the kids there, and the kids are like, Mom, Dad, got lost 6 years ago driving. So there you go. You know what I mean? So it behooves you to be honest so that they can make a stronger diagnosis and treat it better. My goal is really to educate people. I love what I do, and I am very passionate about it. And I speak at Weymouth Council on Aging. I speak at the Hingham Council on Aging, Tufts Library in Weymouth. I speak at nursing homes to the staff members to help them deal with somebody who's going through this disease. So it's not about me trying to say, oh, bring your loved one, or do you have anybody? I did bring brochures, of course, because if anybody would want to speak to me as a resource or anything like that, I'm happy to help you in that way. So keep that in mind. Early symptoms can vary. A blog post for the Mayo, have all of you heard of the Mayo Clinic? They're huge with the research in Alzheimer's and dementia, and explains the clear differences. Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia in early stages. One form of the syndrome called Lewy body dementia, which can mimic symptoms of a variety of diseases, does not have the memory loss with Alzheimer's, the clinic explains, and it goes by LBD, and that stands for Lewy body disease, is the second most common form following Alzheimer's. Instead of forgetfulness, can be marked by hallucinations, confusion. Alzheimer's can cause physical impairment. A Healthline points out there are few similarities between regular dementia Alzheimer's, including cloudy memory, impacted cognitive skills, and trouble communicating properly. However, Alzheimer's can go beyond just a decline in memory or thinking capabilities, adds the source. The disease can cause the patient to have trouble swallowing as well as difficulty walking. And that's what happens. 90% of our residents that move in, because they came in at a late stage, it's called they shuffle, so they walk like this. They're not picking up their feet because their brain's not telling them lift your feet and walk. And then they're forgetting to go and swallow when you chew something. So we do pureed diets, soft diets, mechanical diets, and as the disease progresses, we call it no longer thriving, and then 95% of our residents go on to hospice because they're not mobile. They also have trouble with their words, and we call that word salad. Like, I have a lady, she understands me. She laughs if I say a joke. She'll walk by and she'll look at my shoes or my dress and go, she's trying to say she likes it, but I'll ask her a question. She'll, and she's trying to tell me. That's where cue cards are good. And some people argue that. But again, I hate to say it, but you go back a little. You know how we teach kids when they're young? Like, show them a picture and what is this? We use them. Hungry? In pain? And then she can shake her head. She's hungry, or no, I'm not hungry. Or just because they can't verbalize, they're still in there. We just have to find out how to get there with them. And that's, again, what we do. And also engage in people. My friend, who I talked about earlier, she's a loner. She always has been. She has some friends, but she, most part, stays to herself. It's not a good thing. Socialization, my other friend who's in this room, who travels the world, we won't say her name, Judy, traveling's good, staying with your kids, being interactive, doing things every day, having a purpose, a reason. These are all things that are going to hopefully keep it at bay for a while for you. And she sits home day after day. She walks her dog, she has a group, she meets them once a week, and then she's back all by herself every day. She used to call me regularly. She doesn't do that anymore. And every time I call her, I was just going to call Ellen. That's what she says to me every time. And God forgive me, I get busy. I'm busy. I work, a lot of hours. I also work at a nursing home twice a month doing admissions. And I need to make more time for her. It's just you try to find the time, and it's shame on me. But when I do see her, she doesn't even remember if I was there a month ago or 2 days ago, and not that that makes it better for me. But again, right now she's managing. She has one son, and he's out in Florida, who came up, and he was there for her with the broken hip and everything, but he left in November, and I haven't heard from him, and it's March. So enough said. So if you know someone, if you have a neighbor that's battling it, I've had people move people in on someone who's lived alone. I had one lady, and this story breaks my heart. She was found in her yard. She fell, and she was down for 2 days. She had no family, no one checked on her ever. That's how bad. She was in her backyard, and the neighbors, I guess, were out or away, and they both came to me, and they told me about it. And she was not a big wig, but she worked for the school administration in Weymouth, smart woman, and she could have died, but she did great. She lived with us a little over 2 years, But it's, again, you just don't think, and that's what I tell the folks when they come. They'll come into me. A son will call me and say, I want to come look at your place. I had my mother at the doctor's, and the doctor thinks something's going on. And okay, come on in. And he'll sit down, and, I do my little questions. Where's your mom from? What's going on? How long have you noticed it? And then I'll say, what's your time frame? Oh, I'm just looking. No, you're not. Something happened. You're here for a reason. You don't go out and shop memory care. I'm sure every one of you in this room at one time or another, or maybe not, has shopped assisted living, which is where you just go and you live there and you might get a little help. Memory care, you're not out on a Sunday going, oh, let me go by Windrose and see what they're doing today. People only call. It's need driven. And again, that's my job, to educate them. And funny, the kid that I said that to very nicely, 2 weeks later, he called me. The mother ended up in the hospital with the UTI. The doctors at South Shore said, no, either you get 24/7, which is double what it costs to put someone in a facility, or you place her, because then elders at risk gets involved. So, and I'm a mandated reporter, so it's hard having a friend that has this, and until I see harm to her, there's nothing to report. When I go there, like I said, her house is clean, she has food. I sneak in her kitchen and look in her fridge, and the dog's as healthy as a horse. He looks like a little guinea pig, he's so fat, but yeah. So anyway, again, I read about the health line. The diagnosis process may differ. There can be more involved in arriving at a diagnosis at Alzheimer's versus other forms, which again, it's usually CAT scans, MRI of the brain. And even at that point, they don't give you a definitive on it. Aside from reviewing your medical history and ruling out other conditions, you might be evaluated by a neuropsych trained in brain conditions, notes by the Mayo Clinic. However, you might undergo brain imaging tests that may indicate a progressive loss of brain cells that are associated with Alzheimer's disease. However, it's difficult to distinguish normal brain cell decline with Alzheimer's using scans, so it's not normally used in the diagnosis. Researchers are working on other methods to distinguish Alzheimer's, such as a scan that can detect abnormal protein called tau. I'll tell you about this. Keep that word, T-A-U. Anybody can have yourself test it. It's a blood test. Your regular doctor. And if your TAU is up, then you go to a neurologist. But that's something people don't know, because it's the protein in your blood. I have another friend who just got checked, and hers is high, and she's my age. So now she's going on to more testing. And she doesn't have any signs of it or anything, but the outcome is going to be it. It is going to be it. Alzheimer's only properly diagnosed after death. Like I said, how many times did I mention that today? Further to the last point about doctors being able to see the effects of Alzheimer's on the brain tissue, this can only be confirmed after the patient has died. And that's unfortunate to say it was definitely Alzheimer's, because they can decipher the other dementias, as we mentioned, vascular, alcohol. Again, Alzheimer's, you usually don't have anything medical wrong with you because it's all your brain. Think of it that way. The other dementias, you do have stuff, vascular issues, alcohol, maybe you have a bad liver, bad kidneys. I don't know what that looks like, but it notes a microscopic analysis of the brain tissue will reveal the plaques and tangles, which are the proteins we mentioned that are connected to Alzheimer's disease. Until the patient passes away, the doctors cannot rule it out. And it's interesting because they're saying all these entanglements, and isn't it entanglement to try to understand it all? It's a real lot. Imagine the practitioners and the doctors who diagnose and do this. Dementia is a general term for progressive cognitive decline affecting your memory, thinking, and your daily activities. Everybody know what daily activities are, right? It doesn't mean going exercising or swimming. Do you know what your daily activities are? It's all care, yeah. Taking your meds, you know, brushing your teeth. Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure. I was just checking to make sure everybody had that. Several types of dementia exist, each with its own cause, symptoms, and progression. The four most common types, Alzheimer, vascular, Lewy body, and frontal lobe, and those are the ones I mentioned in the beginning. Alzheimer's, it's the most common type caused by abnormal protein deposits, and there's that word again, and tau, T-A-U, tangles in the brain. Vascular results from damage to blood vessels in the brain, often due to small strokes or reduced blood flow. Lewy body, characterized by the presence of Lewy body abnormal deposits of whatever that word is, protein in the brain. I said I wasn't medical. Frontal lobe affects the frontal and temporal lobes, impacting personality, behavior, and language. I had another friend that I worked with at State Street Bank for years, and she was 60. She was the spit of health. She exercised, she ate the MIND diet, even though it wasn't a thing back then, and she got frontal lobe. And it was debilitating. Like we took her away one more time down the Cape, and I made chicken wings, and she had no boundaries, if you will. Like she sat at the counter and ate ate. I couldn't even tell you how many, and then wanted to go to church, and we took her to church. And two of my friends, and she said she was going to go to the ladies' room, and she went out the exit door, and we lost her for like 30 minutes. We thought the husband, this was 10 years ago before I was really even into this, but I was in assisted living. And she passed. She ended up in a nursing home. But I'll tell you, her sign was she left her home one morning. She lived on the same street 25 years. And she went right through the stop sign that she stopped at for 20-something years. And her husband was like, what the heck? So, go ahead, sir. So he took her to the doctors, and they did all these tests. And even when they told her, she had some deficits, but knew what was going on. And when we took her away, she's like, I don't have it. She said, I'm going to a specialist that's going to take it out of like she didn't understand it. So again, I've had it too close to home for me. Temporal dementia affects the front and the temporal lobes, impacting personality, behavior, and language. And that's what my friend had, behavior, when she ate those chicken wings, you know, and when she left the church. And I had a guy at my place that has hallucinations, and the son didn't believe that his father had it, but the son's wife did. And it was easy, I guess, for her to see it being her father-in-law. You don't want to see it on your own loved one. Anyway, they brought him in for lunch. I told the daughter-in-law, just come have lunch, and we'll sit. And we were out in the courtyard, beautiful day, eating. And the son's going, see, he's fine. He was having a conversation like you and I would have. Until halfway into the lunch, he looked up and he said, Lynn, who are those guys with the machine guns up on the ledge? And the daughter-in-law's stepping on my foot under the table, and I'm like, I know what you're saying. So the son finally realized those are called moments of clarity. It's like my friend. She can have a fluid conversation with me. Some days when I'm there, other days when I'm there, she's like a parrot, repeat. She'll tell me, oh, did I tell you about Rusty called me? Or did I tell you my neighbor Judy came over and took me shopping? And then she'll say it again and again, repetitive. That's a big sign. Repetitive speaking. And then other types of dementia, like I said, Parkinson's dementia, that can occur alongside, which is, I mean, none of them are good, but this is brutal if someone gets it, because they have not only have the medical of the Parkinson's, they got the cognitive of the dementia with it. And then Jacob disease, it's a rare, very rare, progressive form of dementia caused by misfolded prion protein. Huntington's disease is one that I've had a few residents live where I've worked over the years that have had that. It's a neurodegenerate disorder that can cause dementia as well as movement. It almost presents like Parkinson's, like the way the people walk with it, but it's Huntington's disease. Normal pressure, hydrocephalus, that is fluid on the brain. I've known a few people that had that, never moved anybody in with it. Mixed dementia, they have more than one symptom. And the posterior cortical, it's a rare form that attacks the back of the brain because most of them are on the sides or the front. And then lastly, Down syndrome. That's another very sad. They're finding a lot of these younger kids with Down syndrome, they get Alzheimer's if they live long enough, you know, into their 60s and 70s. Yeah. Again, you know, as I speak to all of you, I realize how many personal people I do have known in this. And then more than 5 million Americans are living with the disease. An individual is diagnosed every 67 seconds. Every 67 seconds. Alzheimer's is the country's 6th leading cause of death. Hereditary factors, lifestyle factors is a big thing. I don't care what you do to your body 30 years ago, it's going to come back to you. It's coming back. You know, you can't just, it's like a car. If we don't get the oil change, if we don't keep gassing it, the motor seizures, if we don't drive it and it's in a garage and you go to start it, it doesn't start. You know, and that's what I say about folks with dementia. If they're living at home and they're sitting in front of a TV, that's the demise of them. These places, not only mine, but we have them engage in. It's important. Yes, she might not be able to talk, my little friend Lucy at my place, but she's looking at everybody and she's smiling and she's listening to music. She's not staring at a wall because her family thinks they're taking the best care of her, because it's not the best care. I had one husband who said, oh, I have to place her because she keeps me up all night. She's up every night. I said, what are you doing with her during the day? Well, I get her up, I get her dressed and give her tea and sit her in front of the TV and she watches The Price is Right. Then I give her lunch with the TV table at the chair, and then she takes a nap. And then I give her dinner, and then I get her ready for bed. So what do you think? She sat in a chair all day long. So I said, give her a basket of towels. Unfold those towels that are in the linen closet. Give her a purpose. You know, another guy who was a carpenter, he up at night because he slept all day, and that's called a reverse sleep pattern. So our goal when people move in, we have them up, showered, 3 meals, they're eating at a table with other folks, and they're not going back to their room and laying down or sitting. 85% of the folks at my place don't even have a TV in their room, because we don't want them sitting in front of it. But they are looking at the therapy dog that comes in, Gloria, and wags her tail, and it gives them joy. They are looking at the kids from St. Francis of Assisi that come in and do trick-or-treat with them. They are listening to the guy playing a banjo or a guitar, and it's engaging. So that's all of you. Every one of you in this room, just stay engaged and stay social, and, feed the brain is what I say, and train the brain. And again, the Mayo Clinic reports that less than 1% of cases, genetic change leads to the development of the disease. And then again, Alzheimer's symptoms, memory loss, confusion, trouble communicating, paranoia, and anxiety. And let me tell you, there's support groups that you can go on. If any of you, which I bet most of you go on Facebook, there's some really great sites that you can follow. It's like either a son and his dad has dementia, or I follow this wife and her husband has it. And if you know anybody, that's struggling, just have them watch that. No one sees them watching it, but it prepares them. So this concludes my talk today. Thank you.